what does the word aqidah mean in Arabic? Of course, explaining this in English. So, the word aqidah in Arabic, which I've chosen to translate as creed or belief, carries a number of meanings in the Arabic language. Two of these meanings is to knot, to tie a knot, to bind, or fasten tightly. And the second meaning of the word aqidah is to fortify, or consolidate, or cement. So when we say aqidah, or belief or creed as we translate it, it means something which we are tying our hearts to, and then fortifying and cementing our hearts upon. This is what we're saying by this word. And in this sense, the word aqidah applies to any belief, whether true or false. Anything a person holds true and has no doubt concerning it. I mean, he's convinced concerning this belief and he has no doubt in his heart. This is aqidah. So for those Christians who tomorrow Sunday, when they go to their churches and they insult Allah, as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said to us in a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the son of Adam insults me, and it is not permissible for him to do that. He says, I have a son, and I am Allah, al-Ahad as-Samad. I have not given birth, nor was I born, and there is none equal to me. So tomorrow when those Christians go to church on their Easter Sunday, what they hold in their heart, we call this aqidah, but it's a false aqidah. And likewise, what we have in our hearts, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to further fortify and cement in our hearts, is also an aqidah. So what we want to understand is that the word aqidah in that sense can be applied to any belief, whether true or false. But what we're concerned, of course, with is the true aqidah. The correct belief. The belief which will dictate for us guidance in this world and salvation in the hereafter. What is this correct belief? Well, there will be a lecture, inshallah, by Sheikh Muhammad, which will give the various details. But in summary, we can say that this correct belief has a number of points to it. And I'll just mention them, just listing them off. It means, of course, and first and foremost, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to recognize and to give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what He deserves from Tawheed, which Sheikh Bilal will explain in a lecture, and obedience. The second matter, of course, is to believe in Allah's angels. And the third, in the scriptures which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down to mankind. The fourth issue, the prophets and messengers, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent to mankind. The fifth matter, the resurrection after death, and the last day, the day of judgment, paradise and hell, and all the details which that includes concerning what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for the people in paradise from blessings and mercy and reward, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for the inhabitants of the hellfire from torture and torment and punishment. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from that. And also to believe in Allah's decree and the various levels of Allah's decree, or what is known in Arabic as al-Qadr. And also we may say that when we say the correct aqidah, or the Sunni Muslim aqidah, it also has another issue which is very important. And that is to believe whatever has been affirmed in either the Book of Allah or the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam concerning the various details of the unseen, al-ghayb, as well as not just the details of the unseen, but the various reports or stories which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has informed us concerning the previous nations, those people of mankind who have lived before us to the time of our father Adam alayhi salam, and what occurred between him and Satan from enmity and animosity, which will last until the Day of Judgment. And likewise, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has informed us of what will come in the future, whether we happen to come across these events or not, like the conditions heralding the approach of the Day of Judgment. And finally, we may say, then we say the Islamic Aqeedah, or the correct Sunni belief. It includes all absolute issues. And the word absolute here is a translation for an Arabic term, a scholarly term which is called qat'i. Means something which there is no doubt it is affirmed in the religion. Whether these issues pertain to matters of belief or matters of action. Like that as-salah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obligated 5 prayers upon the Muslims. Even though this in itself is an action, it is still part of the aqeedah. And this brings me to the next point, but I'll defer that. We should also understand, before I come into this, another point, is that this term aqeedah, there are other synonymous terms which the scholars of Islam have used in their writings. Because of course, when we look in the Quran and the Sunnah very carefully, we won't find the word aqeedah there. We find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this as al-Iman. Al-Iman. And this term, al-Iman, is the term used by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is synonymous, and it is even a better term than the term aqeedah to describe what I just mentioned in those 8 points, al-Iman. Also, the scholars have taken other terms which they have derived from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to describe these matters. Sometimes you'll find them referring to as Tawheed. And that is because Tawheed is the greatest issue of these issues, to worship Allah alone, and to affirm to Him His names and attributes. And that's why if you look in Sahih al-Bukhari, in volume 9, the last book in it is the book of Tawheed, Kitab al-Tawheed, dealing with what is to be affirmed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from His names and attributes. And likewise, you find another work written concerning worshiping Allah alone, Kitab al-Tawheed, which was penned and authored by the great scholar of Islam, Shaykh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab. So we find that the scholars of Islam sometimes refer to this subject which we're talking about also by the term Tawheed. Also we find to them referring it to by the term as-Sunnah. And this time sometimes people misunderstand exactly what is the intent by this. When we say Sunnah in this context, we mean that which the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came with. Whether it is obligatory, whether it's recommended. In other words, we mean it, the whole religion which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed upon the Prophet Muhammad. And the most important issue in the religion which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and upon which all other issues are based and grow out of, are the matters of the belief. And that is why you find the earliest scholars of Islam, when they used to say the word as-Sunnah, they used to refer to the books of belief. So here we have the Imam Ahmed. He has a book called the Book of as-Sunnah. And you find in there, it's in 2 volumes, Matters of Belief. And if you look in Sunan Abi Dawood, which has been translated into the English language, in volume 3, you will find in there a book called Kitab as-Sunnah. And in there you'll find Matters of Belief. And likewise other scholars, there's maybe 10 or 11 books you can find, printed, not to speak about all the books which still remain in manuscript, all labeled and titled by the word as-Sunnah, meaning beliefs. And that is because the earliest Muslims understood that the way of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, its foundation lied and its basis lied in beliefs. Not like some people today imagine that the Sunnah refers to politics, or that the Sunnah refers to just to recommended actions having no real weight in the religion. Of course not. If we look at the earliest scholars, they understood that the word Sunnah meant the beliefs first and foremost. We now come to another term which was used by the scholars, and this is usul al-diyana. As by the Imam Ibn Battah wrote a book and he called it al-Ibana fi usul al-diyana, or the clarification concerning the fundamentals of the religion. And this is another term used by the scholars. Also, sometimes they used to use the word sharia, the word sharia, to refer to the beliefs. like Imam Abu Bakr al-Ajurri. He has a book, a whole book, has many sections in it concerning beliefs, which he entitled and labeled as Sharia. Because to them, they understood that the Sharia was not just applying the hudud, applying the punishments for the thief and for the one who commits illicit sex and for so forth and so on. But they understood that the foundation of the Sharia lied in beliefs. And that is why you find in his book, and Shaykh Imam al-Ajurri died in the year 520 or thereabout, you find that he labels his book as Sharia, and all what you will find in there, just a description of Allah's names and attributes, a discussion concerning the Prophet's companions, concerning Qadr, and the other issues which deal with belief, and the deviated sects have split off from the correct belief in. So the point here, brothers,